Well, as I always say, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in this world. And it's a beautiful day where I am at the moment. And I hope where you are, it is also a beautiful day. Gentlemen, let me ask you, first of all, maybe is it a beautiful day where you are?
Yeah, it is a beautiful day and good to be here. And greetings to all our viewers and listeners, and to both of you, Graham and Mohammed.
Mohammed, how are you today? Is it beautiful
I'm
in Bahrain?
yeah, I'm doing well. Weather's getting better. I'm so hi from Bahrain.
Hi from Bahrain. And it's always a beautiful day when I am talking to you two gentlemen. So I know that Mohammed has been involved recently in a particular department in an organization, large organization. We won't disclose anything else about the organization at this point, unless Mohammed, no, we're going to keep it secret, aren't we? But we're going to talk about the sort of things that came out of this for you. So which department am I talking about? Of
Well,
course,
basically, yeah, I'm sorry.
go ahead.
Basically, it's HR, and all I can say from that experience is that the HR department are doing a very good job in bringing back more trust in the organization, and they are improving uh, so many aspects of human resources, all right? And the humans in the organization are feeling more connected, and they feel more trust in what the overall organization, by the management, leadership, etc. They have more connectivity. Let me say just that. So I was seeing how HR can play a role in, you know, shortening the distance between leadership and employees. So from where they stand. So it was a good topic to discuss today, I thought.
Leadership and HR. Oh, and people having what HR? It's an interesting one to choose, isn't it? That you're saying is so good. Wouldn't they be really happy about the HR? Sorry, about the finance department because they pay them. Oh, we love the finance department. Paid by them, most important department. Well, maybe there's another department. Maybe the sales department's important. Well, Bibi, your view.
Yeah, thank you, Graham. Yeah, one aspect which I want to bring at point. Yes, all departments are important, but when the term company comes from group of people coming together, and no company exists without people. Yes, we have AI these days, but even if we have AI, there should be people who understand AI in order to manage that, in order to move the the wheels rolling. So people, as Tom Peters always highlights, people drives business, and that function which enables people is the HR function. People call it human resources. I want to also give another term to HR, that is humans respected. What happens if humans are respected in workplace? And what role HR can play as a function to make it the strategic driver for organization, where the organizations and the people in that thrive. So that is why, as Graham you mentioned and Mohammed mentioned, the strategic department which can make or break an organization is the HR.
Hang on, the HR department being able to drive the organisation. I thought the HR department just looked after the number of days that you have accrued before you can have a holiday, annual leave, and how many days are there for you to take sick leave, and they can keep a note of all of these and say you can't have any more sick leave. You must come to work when you're sick. You can't stay at home. I thought that's what HR did, and they engage new staff members. Oh, we got another person. Okay, good. But you're talking about them being involved in a strategic way. Well, let me just flip what I have said on its head. You quoted Tom Peters and what he believes HR stands for. For those of you who've read Good to Great by Jim Collins, that wonderful book, in that book, he refers to HR as hire right. That is, the HR department hires the right people. And that is one of the critical areas that HR works in. But Mohammed's pushing it another way as well. And he's talking about the HR department building the culture of that organisation in terms of what they do strategically and in other ways. And I have said, well, one more time, first time for today, and that is that the HR department is one of, if not the most critical departments in the organisation. And these days, organisations which respect the value of the HR department often have the HR director on the board of the company, giving them a real voice at that level. So let's have your thoughts about how leadership ties into this.
Let's picture this situation, all right? I am in a department for so many years, and my situation, my condition, situation, position has not changed. No matter how much I strive, I'm, down in the dungeon there. I go study, for example, a lot. I earn more qualifications. I do a better job in my target. Still, there is very poor progress and acknowledgement, let me say, from my superiors, and it frustrates me down. My morale goes down. All right. So there is poor relationship now between me and my leader, and the leader and I are trying to do things better. It's not going. Why? Because something is lingering in between us. The default is for me to go to HR. Okay, that's the default. That's the norm. Let's just talk about Middle East at least. I will go to HR and I say, okay, when is my situation going to change? Okay, it's not in their hands. It's in my manager's hand to change my situation. But why do I go to HR? All right, because I, as a human resource, I'm not being invested, capitalized, and used very well, and my potential is not used. And guess what does this do to me in my career? It's a daily ghost. Let me say a late paycheck can be solved. It's a monthly thing, or a recruitment issue, which is only one time. But this thing between me and my leader is there every day. It will affect everything else that we do. So here's where HR play a good role in trying to solve these things between me and my leader. Although I shouldn't go to HR, ideally.
Well, ideally, your leader in your department, if he really is a good leader, he will identify the issues that you have. He will identify that things are not going well for you and might come and say, look, can we talk, Mohammed? I'm not sure that everything's going well with you as it should be. You want to talk about it? That's what leaders that we're directly reporting to should be able to do. But there are times when leaders, managers, let's just say, when they see that the person has a problem in perhaps needing support because of the emotional issues at home or wherever, the manager can say, oh, that's an HR problem. Go and talk to HR about it. So there's a differential. There are some areas where HR are fantastic in this and should be used. There's also the leader who should step up before the crisis occurs or the issue and have the relationship with the individual so that he's not just passing the person off to HR. So there's two things in what I'm saying. I think HR do a fantastic job. And my final point before getting to food is, some years ago, this was a company, a very large company in Abu Dhabi, and it was a program that I was running, and the HR manager was on this program, although it wasn't just for his company. And he talked to me quietly about the fact that he's always out talking to the staff. And he said, my general manager said, why are you doing all this? Get it into the office and do your work, kind of thing. And I had said to this man what he knew was happening, and that is the work that he's doing is the relationship that he has with all the staff members. in this fairly large organization, because he goes out and talks to them, has a relationship with them, which is what we talk about in leadership. This is a relationship that is building, and he's building the culture of the organization because of what he is doing in the relationship with all the staff members. Absolutely approachable, absolutely open to ideas, wanting to put things forward on the table that can result in real change. So this is where the HR department really comes alive. I am a great advocate for the HR department and what they are doing, and that I think they should be given as much power as possible. Bibi, your thoughts, please.
I was just remembering an instance in which when we had our organization a new head of HR, one of his practice was to bring the people in the HR team every week together. It can be for half an hour, or it can be sometimes for a morning tea and coffee, where people share and bring food. And one thing which I noticed after introducing that process every week was, like in the past, we might see a colleague say good morning, and then maybe we see them in the lift, and then at the end of the day. But that actually brought the people together to having a small conversations around. Now, that simple action of bringing together for half an hour changed the way in which the work environment is experienced by me, and that was a huge impact which I have seen from a shift of bringing people every week for half an hour. And as Graham, you mentioned that everyone is there in a casual conversation, having a cup of tea or coffee, and then going to their work, or sharing, for example, like what was done this week, what happened, and appreciating the work which we do. And quite often this is a question which I just want to ask people who are in the HR leadership. What are we as HR and people leaders willing to take personal responsibility for changing in our culture starting today? Now,
Very good.
Now this is not rocket science, but it is, as you mentioned, bringing people together, or connecting or building that relationship, going to their places. I had also experienced in another organization that sometimes people were frowned that I had to build relationship with various department heads. So may go to meet some people in their cubicle, and someone was mentioning why this guy is moving around in the head office in different departments. So, imagine that if leaders think like that, there is no relationship building. There is no understanding happening. And for change to happen, this is another perspective. The values we declare, are we living that? And how other people are feeling, or how the people observing us experience us in that role.
Yeah, look, let me give you a brief example of the relationship between HR and the individuals and how that can work. I was coaching a young woman, who works for an organization, a large organization in UAE. And she had a problem with her manager who had done something that should not have been done. And she said, I have difficulty talking to my manager. It was a woman who was her manager. And she said, it's quite a problem for me. What do you suggest I do about it? Because my manager just doesn't know about it. And I said, why don't you go to the HR department? Is there anyone in that department who you have a reasonable relationship with? And she said, yeah. I said, well, go and ask them to give you some time. And when you go and see them, say, I need your advice. I need some help from you. I don't need you to do anything for me at this stage. I don't need you to intervene, but I want you to tell me what you think I should be doing in order to handle this situation. And she did that and got a good result. She wasn't calling in the troops, as you might say. She wasn't getting the HR department to rally around and do something about her manager, but in fact, gave her some advice and suggestions. And I think that that's an important role that the HR department can play, where there is an issue with the individual who doesn't feel that they're able to talk to their manager, and the HR department can facilitate this, or at least provide some suggestions on how it can be handled. Mohammed.
While we can think of of the issues between employees and their leaders, quote unquote leaders or managers, all right, as very individual and personal, because each one is specific and to a certain issue or period or type or nature or environment, whatever. We can also think of HR playing a good role on a mass level. On a mass level, HR can bring back trust in the organization on group level. So their initiatives, their studies, the surveys they conduct, the the initiatives not only they initiate but also follow through and complete and accomplish. All these things can play a major role in bringing back good relationship between managers and their employees, and hence those small individual problems can also be relieved, moved, or at least get unstuck with them. So let's not think of HR only as an individual, go-to complaint department, all right? They are also they can also shape the culture if they can uh, play like a team with the leaders, but also allies with the employees.
Absolutely. When you're saying that, I'm thinking of an organization in Saudi. Again, some years ago now, when I'd started working with an HR director, and there's a woman who's the HR director, and she said the HR department is the butt of the organization. And when she was saying that, I didn't need to have the word butt spelt because I knew which butt she was talking about. She wasn't talking about, but you can't do this because, no, it was the BUTT, which means that they are rather the back end of the organization and not highly respected. And I said to her, how would you feel if you were able to turn that around? And she said, oh, that would be fantastic. And I'm not going to go into too much detail, but we had a couple of conversations, she and I, and in a very short space of time, turned that around. And I believe that the HR department, the HR director or team members in the HR department believe that they are struggling in terms of the respect and the point of view and the relationship that they have with the staff, talk to us, talk to me. I mean, this is something for the very good of the organisation, when there is a very good relationship with the team and all the members of the staff and the HR department. Because if you've got the wrong view of what HR is supposed to do, and if you've got any resentment to what they're doing, maybe you need to have a conversation with the HR department and say, why have I got this view about HR? That wasn't what I said to this HR director, but we got the really good result. I think it's just going to help all organisations thrive when they have the HR department has a very close relationship with all the staff. Trust was one of the words that was used at the start of this conversation today, and by Pippi. And that is one of the key elements that they must have with the HR department. Pippi?
One more aspect which I just want to bring in is, we know knowledge brings awareness, and awareness breeds potential. Now, as HR or people function, are we creating the awareness and the importance of our own role with the senior executives? Quite often, are we courageous enough? And again, this requires, as a function, we understanding the business. Can we also, from a business angle, highlight why it is important to have taking people's emotions, people's motivations as an important characteristic in a workplace? And this is a question which I think people in the HR function should reflect. The question is like this: in what ways are we as HR and people leaders holding ourselves accountable for living the values we declare beyond policies and statements? And the leadership challenge provides a great insight into that. Are we modeling the way?
Sure. Sure, absolutely. And one thought that goes through my mind is all of the HR department must be great exponents of emotional intelligence, right? Be able to communicate well with everybody in the organisation. But also, when it comes to the practices, who wants to follow on from that for me in terms of HR?
Yeah, the first one we just mentioned, the modeling the way. And again, another aspect which I want HR leaders to reflect is, how are we inviting others in the organization to tell us when we fall short?
Yeah, yeah. But all of the 5 practices absolutely apply to the HR department. Now, they should be, of course, living the values of the organisation. They should be doing what they say that they will do. The second practice, of course, inspire a shared vision. They should be talking about the vision for what the HR department is doing and how that is impacting on the organisation positively. And what about the third one, challenging the process? No, we can't change this. This is practice. It's policy. It's something no, the HR department should be looking for better ways. And I'm sure that most of them do that. And the next one is enable.
And Graham, before moving into the next one, I just want to highlight, in the challenge the process, quite often, sometimes what I have observed is, this is as per the policy. And remember, they don't, one aspect sometimes HR forgets is policies can be changed. It is not cast in stone. Policies need to be changed and revamped based on the situations and circumstances. If it doesn't serve us, why are we holding to that policy?
Yeah. By the way, the use of policy in this context is really just an excuse for them not to do anything. Now, it's policy. Oh, I'm not going to talk about it anymore. Close the door. Hang up the phone. It's policy. Goodbye. Boom. No, we've got to be looking for better ways to do things. And then, of course, we get to enable others to act. And this should be encouraging people to be better than they even thought that they themselves, the individuals, could be. And finally, the HR department recognising the work that people do, particularly. And I know that organisations I've been involved in, where it comes to an employee of the month or an award for good work, but the HR department is critically involved, important player in recognising the individual. Mohammed, this conversation started with you, so let's come back and have your words as we wrap this up. Have we even touched the surface?
Yes, we have actually, and we went deeper than that, just the surface. And I would like to say, after my recent experience, as much as we think of the HR department as a place where they have open heart, open arms, and of course, open ears for all people's problems, they also can play a good role, like I saw, not waiting for the problems to occur in order to receive them. The initiatives I have witnessed and the proactive measures, all right, and they showed how this team in HR foresaw things before they happen. So they ran, miles ahead of those incidents and created a good cushion, a good ground for healthy conversations, healthy communication before things get worse. And even the normal communication will not work at that time. You have to be in a catastrophic, situation. So HR can do a lot of things while things are settled before they get unsettled, actually.
Absolutely. Absolutely. They should have the insight and the understanding to recognise that we have a potential problem, perhaps, and we need to deal with this now before it becomes a real issue. And we need to take positive, proactive steps, not just to rely on that word that Phoebe used before. Don't use that word again, Phoebe. You understand me? Policy. I never want to hear that word again. They should be with the staff, with the people, right? With not with managing them as HR. Phoebe.
You said it right, that are we enabling the people in the organization, or are we disabling the people in our workplace? And how are we creating that culture we have plenty of data to look into whether our retention rate as a function, our absenteeism as a culture, our engagement data, what is that's telling us, what is Google review about our workplace or Glassdoor review about our workplace. We all have these data. And if we shut our eyes to these data coming to us, we are actually not enabling others to act. We are not enabling innovation in our workplace. We are not encouraging the heart.
And mentioning those things include also that they should always do exit interviews. They must always be learning about how things are going, positively and negatively, maintaining the staff in the best possible way. Gentlemen, I want to thank you both for your wisdom, as always. This has been, I hope, an insightful conversation for people who are listening to us. I hope they get value out of it. And we will see you again next week. Gentlemen, thank you very much for
Thank
being
you.
with us.
Lovely. See you.
Thank you, Vivi.
Thank you. Subscribe, spread the news, share your questions in our comments.
Thank you.